As we were doing the final edits on this video, we received word of the death of Steve Lawson. Steve was an organist and an important figure behind the New York Organ Project and the OHS database. If you've ever used those resources, then you know how extensive they are. Steve's work inspired a lot of mine, wanting to put content on the internet, making sure it's thorough, and making things free for everyone to experience. I never actually got to meet Steve, but we corresponded more than once. After one of these videos would go online, within minutes I would have an email from him asking for more information about something we skipped over in the video or glossed over or didn't include. He wanted to make sure he knew every piece of information so that it could be recorded and kept for future posterity. So his presence will be missed, his absence will be felt. I hope someone will be stepping up to fill his shoes. They are big shoes to fill. So with that, we dedicate this video to the memory of Steve Lawson. Hi, I'm Brent Johnson, and we are at Christ Church in Old City, Philadelphia. This historic building was founded in 1695. The building was from 1744, and lots of American history has taken place here in this church. There's signers of the Declarations of Independence that came here. Benjamin Franklin is buried here. There's just a ton of history in this building. And there's a ton of history in this organ, too, so we're going to talk about that today. This is Parker Kitterman. He is the organist here. How long have you been the organist here?
8 years.
8 years, so you kind of got to oversee the installation of this new organ.
That's right.
This is CB Fisk Opus 150, and how many ranks do we have?
We have about 53 ranks.
Okay.
It's a pretty comprehensive instrument of 3 manuals and pedal, obviously.
Yeah, 3 manuals, so you've got a great swell, and then you actually added this division to the existing building. Now we should say this case dates from the 19th century, correct?
This casework from the carvings on up, the upper part of the case, all the way up to the urn and the lyre at the top, are from the organ, the second organ that was built for Christ Church in the 1830s, and it was built by an American organ builder named Henry Urban. It's historic, obviously, and we wanted to preserve that outer casework. There was nothing left of that instrument itself, but since the casework was done at the same time as the sanctuary was redone in the 1830s, and it was designed in working with the architect of this room from the 1830s. That was Henry U. Walter, a famous architect, and we believe that the urban organ was designed in consultation with Walter, and so we wanted to keep that looking of a piece with the room.
So you've managed to create essentially a completely new organ, but without destroying any of the architectural integrity of this historical room. You're keeping the exact.
That was a very important concern of ours too. Now that being said, we did build an entire new division of the organ on the rail.
The architecture, the design of this chair organ matches the case exactly, so Fisk did a great job of not trying to put something new in here.
Right.
Now that must have been a bit of a challenge for them to say, all right, here's the case you've got to use, build a new organ within it.
Not only that, but much of the organ that was installed in here in the 1930s, which was a much larger instrument. Much of that organ actually was built into the tower space.
Much behind the case.
Much further behind the case. There was an opening taken out of the back wall of the nave, so much of that organ was well back in the tower. And when we built this instrument, we actually closed off that wall and brought everything out into the room, so all the pipework's out in the room, that narrowed the depth that we had to work with. So we had a case and not a very deep space to build in which to build, and we had some interesting acoustical quirks here as well. So that all of that sort of informed the design and where we place things in the organ.
Closing off that tower must have helped bring the organ out into the room, though, a little better than the old organ.
Absolutely, yeah. So the organ became a little more vertical and more present in the room, and we still managed to put in a very sizable swell division at the top of the case and a grate up there as well that we found with acoustical testing that those divisions really sing and engage the whole space, really resonate well from that level that's 12 to 16 feet above the floor level.
So the grate and the swell are both up on the same height in the
Yes,
room.
there's even an upper grate that has four of the voices on the grate are at a slightly elevated level, which again we found with acoustic testing. They really just sing, and there's a sweet spot up there that we found was lacking at this floor level.
And I want to say this is a busy tourist church, so there are people here who are here to see the building and see the historic sites. So we're going to go ahead and listen to a little bit of the organ, and hopefully our listeners and viewers at home will be able to hear what we're hearing. So let's talk about that swell that's up there. This is an all-mechanical action organ with terrace stop jams and this beautiful black walnut console. So let's start. Let's just listen to the violin diapason on the swell.
It's a beautiful stop. Like
It's pretty broad scale for violin diapason. I almost think Geigen or diapason is certainly the right word. It's not edgy and it's not crude. So next to that we have a corde de nuit, 8 foot.
Which again, it seems pretty soft here. Out in the room, it's much fuller and rounder.
Hopefully our microphones, which are actually back there, are getting the sound.
It's gentle, and it works well with a number of other stops, such as the oboe or the viol de gamme.
Let's listen to the viol de gamme. Sure. Right.
Yeah, it's a little bit scratchy with the corde de nuit again. Of course, it works with the Celeste. So the violin diapason, for example, can take the place of the gamba as well as having a different sound.
So after that, you have a 4 foot flute octaviante.
Right, that's a harmonic flute.
Let's hear the harmonic. Clear and colorful. How does that sound with the 8 foot corde de nuit, and then we have your 8 and 4 foot flutes together? Very chipper and bright and a useful color. Mm-hmm. So then we also have a 4 foot dulciana. That's a softer string, I'm assuming.
Right. It can also sort of function as a 4 foot principal, more or less.
Oh, really?
So yeah, that's what we have as far as the. Yeah. So that can combine.
So then you 8 and 4. As we've commented before, the dulciana on organs is actually generally a little principal. But you could even make that if you needed more 4 foot, you could bring on the flute octaviante, and then you would have that bigger sound.
Right.
Gives you more edge. And then, so what would you do if you wanted the whole plane of a chorus there? You would use the diapason.
Yeah, you can just do that.
Okay,
actually,
so this is the
words.
part.
Extra 16s if you want.
That big plangeux of 4 ranks gives you an 8 rank chorus right there, just on the swell.
Just on that,
really full.
And of course, in the absence of a clairon, you can add your reeds to the plangeux to make a.
Let's listen to the reed. Just play the 8 foot trumpet for me.
Sure.
Let's see what this sounds like. It's not huge, it's a powerful reed. And one thing you've mentioned is that the wind pressure on this organ is a little lower than Fisk would do, or most builders would do. It's about 2 inches, 2 1/4.
2 1/4.
2 1/4 inches. So getting a reed to be prompt and full on that kind of pressure is a trick. So that's
Yes.
well done for them on that voicing.
Yes.
And then we don't have a 4-foot reed. We do have a 16-foot bombard.
Right.
How does that compare to the 8-foot?
It's a little more, it's a little bit darker. It's a little more like I would say
More English and color.
yeah.
So if you need a darker reed, you can play that up an octave.
Can be
You've got an
played up.
8-foot trumpet that's
Played up the octave. We have 16-foot pitch at all of the manuals, so you get a lot of you can have a lot of options as far as what register you're playing in.
We also have an 8-foot oboe, an Agua. Let's hear what that sounds like by itself first.
Yeah, it's almost a chameleon because it works well as a solo voice. Obviously, you can use it to play, any sort of solo texture. But it can also be its own little chorus reed. So, and it works with the foam of the organ, the French sort of registration as well. So
Play a little of that.
yeah, sure. This is just the swell by all the swell 8-foots by themselves. The great, when it couples into the great, you've got a whole nother level of.
Before we go on to the great, we still have a few more stops. You've got a little bit of a cornet here because we have a Nazard, an octavin, and a tierce that you can put on top of your.
Right. So you can have your sort of cornet décomposé there.
Right. It really carries in the room.
Yeah. And I found that, with or without the tierce, you can, if you're having a very full 2D sort of sound, you can almost put everything on at the same time, and it pretty much works. That cornet can sort of function as a clairon or an extra sort of element of brightness to the full sound.
There's a big chord there for me.
So,
Without the tierce.
Yeah. And bring it on. A little more brightness.
A little extra attack there. Very good. Well, and then right up there in the same realm is the great.
The facade is it's 16-foot facade down to about low F sharp,
Okay.
I think is the center pipe. That's voiced very gently. So
Usually you're used to those facade pipes sort of spitting at you.
they don't spit at you at all. So
can't tell they're out here.
I do a lot with that. I can you can play it up the octave to get sort of different antiphonal effects with other divisions. They sort of all balance each other. They have a sort of a similar volume. It also, of course, works with the principal chorus. It also works kind of. I like to use it sometimes for if I'm having a running bass part in a sort of a texture where I have a bass line that I need that's very agile. I can use that stop.
It gives you the presence to be heard in that low range.
Something else in the chair, for example. So if I'm doing something like this. So I have a lot of different options with that.
What else do we have in the great?
You have a very dark principal, 8-foot principal.
It's very warm.
And the chorus just goes up to the next one. There are 2 reeds. the biggest reed on the organ, again, is not huge, is the French trumpet. Sometimes with one of like maybe the bourdon or the spire flute.
It's a very
big
bright
festive
trumpet,
reed.
but it's not loud, so it sticks out. You can give it a little more presence with some of the other.
With some of the other stops. And then there's a German trumpet, which is more of a chorus reed, which can be kind of cool with the softer registers.
Call that an oboe or a bassoon.
Yeah, it's. I can't really. I wish I could say why it sounds the way it does. It's something to do with the way the shallots are, the way it's constructed. But
maybe someone from Fisk will see this and leave us a comment and explain
to do that.
exactly what's different between the German and the French trumpet.
But I use it a lot of hem registrations because it fits into the texture. So you know. It's a nice representation.
I want to hear the harmonic flute, 8-foot harmonic flute in the great. Clear. Now that's one of the stops that's located above the other great pipes because when we speak out in the room, they determine there's a little acoustic spot.
Yeah,
it speaks clearly. What else is up there next to it?
There's a gamba up there, which again is quite scratchy and works beautifully with some of the other stops. That's a stop flute, the bourdon up there. There's a spire flute, which is a tapered flute, which is voiced rather large, so that can function as a 4-foot flute in a.
So those can be solo voices.
Solo voices. You can use it in the pedal, for example, with string accompaniment. Of course, they all can combine together. But yeah, I've really enjoyed that spire flute. It's been a really wonderful color in the organ.
That brings us to the newest part of the case here, the chair organ, a nice historic term for the part of the organ located right behind your chair where you sit. So what do we have in there? How many ranks, first of all?
We have, let's see, I should know this. 6, 79, 12 stops. And with the mixture, so 4-rank mixture, so 15 ranks.
So we have 15 ranks in this little box back here. It's very compact, I assume, but
that's the facade principle. 4. You can even add the Dulcian 16, that's an earlier reed sound that can actually work with that chorus as well. So,
what's the Dulcian sound like by itself? Because that must be a sort of
quite gentle.
It's a lovely, if you had it up as an 8-foot timbre, but having it down to go all the way to 16 is nice.
Yeah, it goes down to 16 with some at a Haskell they put on the top of it.
So that's nice to be able to have a 16-foot even in this little addition that we've made here.
Yeah,
you can still get all of that.
And they managed to get it to all be speaking pretty evenly and clearly. There's a cremorne, a cremona, which is not quite as aggressive as a French cremorne there as well, which.
It's got some brightness to it, though. I'm sure at its position really sings out into the room.
Yeah.
And then a flute cornet there is on the next.
Flute cornet. is a wood. This is a wood Hvac stop flute. 4 flutes. The 2 2/3. The rest of this is principal scale, but it kind of works with the flutes or the principals. So you can use it with the flutes or with the principals.
Oh, okay.
But it can be used. So you can have a cornet sound here, or you can do sort of more of a sesquialtera.
Okay, so you have some flexibility there. And
Yeah.
those just it's a lot of stops
Yeah.
to be able to play with.
And one of the most often used, I've used most as much as any other stop on the organ, is this beautiful Quintadena, which the students I heard them playing on this morning. Yeah, I love it.
So out of the chair organ, I'm hearing a lot more sort of Baroque sounds, more classical sounds. I want to go back to the grate because the sound of the 8-foot principal really surprised me. This is a very warm and dark sort of sound. Play a little more of it just so I can... Compared to the principal we have in the chair.
Right.
Even the different volume.
Much clearer.
It's a clear, smaller scale, but brighter.
It's more clear, more transparent sounding a little bit.
And and so this has a very broad foundation, which I think is more what people are looking for today in an organ sound. You can have brightness to add to it to get a nice clear sound, but you still want a nice warm sound to build the ensemble on.
Yeah.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about the pedal.
Sure.
Because we got a nice big pedal over here.
Sure.
Let's start with we have an open bass 16. Is that that's in the back of the organ, I believe?
It's all in this lower case here. It's pretty close to us. Let's see. So here's what that's. Actually, four stops at 16-foot foundation stops. And the reason for that was we found that the room really sucks up bass frequency, and we really wanted a lot of 8 and 16 foundation in this organ. So
the next one's a violon bass.
The violon bass is actually a unit with the cello.
So it's available at 16 and 8.
Yes. Yeah.
It's handy.
And it's a lovely stop. I've really enjoyed using it.
It's very clear.
It's very clear. So if you're doing your Hvac, whatever, you hear that. You hear that articulation of the bass line.
It's very clear, but it's not overly loud.
It's not overly loud.
And then we have a 16-foot sous-bass, which is another flea rank.
Very French, yes. So there's an ample, and then the Preston is the same rank from the grate shared to the pedal.
So again, that's a gentle sort of sound. You've got not overpowering. You've got your power comes from the numbers, and you blend those together and get a big heavy 16 sound.
Right. Yeah.
Not use them to get a light 16 sound.
Yeah, I actually I find that I rarely use all of the 16s together. I kind of decide based on whatever sound I'm going for. I don't use the open bass a whole lot, except for bigger voluntaries or maybe the last verse of a hymn. But you get to you can sort of be judicious about. The nice thing about this is you don't have to pull everything on to get a forte, or but on the other hand, you can get very soft, subtle things as well. So it's it's really nice in that respect. The sound sounds quite loud here, but with the great, it kind of was voiced to balance with the great chorus, I think. So when you've got everything on, I think it balances pretty well. So.
of attack down there and a lot of presence, but it's not along the way. Now, are the 8 and 4 octave part of the 16-foot Piston? Is that
They're all independent.
They're all independent, so
Yep.
you have 3 separate ranks there of principal chorus and the pedal.
Yep.
And then the 8-foot Trumpet,
Independent as well.
independent as well, so you got an 8-foot in the pedal. Let's hear that a little bit.
Sure.
It's a pretty bright trumpet there. That
Yeah,
stick out a little bit.
yeah.
We also have the only 32 we have is a resultant.
Right.
Which do you know which stops or?
It's a smart resultant, so it draws. If you have the Subas drawn, that the default is the Subas, I believe. So if I have the Subas drawn, it brings on the 5th from that. If I have the open bass drawn, it brings on that one.
Oh, very smart. I like this idea. Organ builders need to adopt this.
Yeah.
Having a resultant that just grabs whatever you're using and adds the proper
Right.
stop as a 5th. So
If
very
nothing,
nice.
yeah, these sort of. I think the default is the Subas, and then if the open bass is on, it takes that. So.
You have plenty of pistons here with nice modern combination action with 12 generals. And how many memory levels do we have?
300, I think.
More than that you
More
could
than
ever
enough,
need.
yes.
And are the plus and minus next in, are those piston sequencers?
Yes,
Okay.
they're down here as
Okay, so
well, and at the in the center of
Next
the.
pistons everywhere, which is becoming more and more common. And then all the couplers are up above the swirl
Right.
manual, which is typical of a mechanical action instrument like this.
Right.
And then we have a couple of little extra features here. You have a Zimbelstern, of course,
The Zimbelstern, you can draw that.
which is up high. And then the Rossignol, the Nightingale.
Yeah, that's a favorite. I used that for what hymn was it? I first used it on Thanksgiving for the hymn. We plow the fields and scatter, and there's a verse about the birds
Of course.
in the air, and I used that, and everyone went crazy. So I've had to be very judicious about when to use it because people would love it if I use it every week, but I don't do that.
Now, this room is not air conditioned.
Right.
There's a lot of buildings, certainly an 18th century building wouldn't have been air conditioned, and it's hard to put that back into one. So in order to help keep this organ a little more in tune, it has its own cooling system.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about how that works.
So we designed, or I should say, Fisk, and in consultation with Dana Kierkegaard, the acoustician, and working with our contractors, designed an HVAC system for the organ that provides some degree of cooling. It keeps but primarily it keeps the organ at a constant temperature.
So it's not really blowing out like cold air like a home air conditioner does.
No.
It's just adding a little bit cooler air that I
Yeah.
assume is coming in from the top.
It cools some of the air and it mostly recirculates it through the organ.
So the organ air is kind of different from the air we're experiencing.
Yes.
It's not 60 degrees in there. It's a few degrees cooler.
Right.
While it's pretty warm out here, and that just helps try to keep things steady. And I should add, it's in here as well. It's
Yeah,
in the
it
chair
runs
organ.
all the way through
And
to the
I can-
chair.
if I stick my hand in there, it
You can
actually
actually feel
feels
some of the cool air
a little
coming
bit
out.
cooler. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's remarkable, and it
Yeah.
does help because it's on a warm day like today. I
Yeah.
wouldn't expect it to be as intense
Yeah,
as it
so a
is.
day like today, I mean, we can test it actually if we listen. There's a little bit of beating, but it's fairly
That's-
close.
But for as warm as it is
For as
today,
warm as it
that's
is.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And again, everything on the swell and the grate are up on the same level, so that helps keep those
Right.
around. And then all you have to do is adjust to this. And if you can keep the same air, that's pretty remarkable that the air in here is the same as the air in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating. And when you look at it from downstairs, I didn't realize till I got up here, the panels down here at the bottom actually are grills, and they're sound transparent grills to help let the pedal sound out
Right.
into the room that you can't tell from downstairs.
You can't tell from so much from downstairs, but they have about 1.5 inch wide perimeters around them that are a fabric that has a sort of a false reveal, and it allows for a lot of sound egress from the pedal division. And they go around the sides too, so it helps get the boost the pedal a little bit. And we also opened out the gallery rail when we had to rebuild the rail to put the chair in, so we took that opportunity.
This was solid initially?
It was solid and even thicker than it is now, and we slimmed it down a little bit and opened out those openings, which are called menipes, that allows for some tonal egress from the choir and musicians up here, and a little bit for the organ as well.
We were here for the pipe organ encounter in July of 2018. This was one of the practice locations, so young student organists got to have this as their practice instrument. I can't imagine, and for their lessons. We also had a concert here on Thursday night of that week, and several of the faculty members performed. So there's a link up here to watch one of those videos if you want to go see some of that performance and hear some of this organ. But I want to go look around inside and see how Fisk has made all of this work.
Lower main case, in which is this basically is the pedal division, and you can see all of our central playing mechanism comes through here as well. You can see all the trackers and the roller boards for the pedals underneath, and then these go up to the grate and swell.
So here are our grate rollers coming up from the console, and then across the walkboard we see the swell going up to their roller boards, and everything's up on the same level above the pedal. The violon bass is horizontal across the back.
There's a tremulant for the entire organ, but there's also a separate tremulant for the chair. It's based on an earlier design, so they spent quite a bit of time working out the details of this, and it's slower and has a deeper tremulant than the main one. There it goes.
It's a very gentle little movement there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's flapping around a lot, but the door is what's leaving the trim, and that's all that you need.
Yeah.
And this is just essentially upside down pipes in water, correct? And makes little bubbles as they blow through for bird effects.
Yeah, we decided to put that there so that it would be the easiest to get water into it without having to pour water over other delicate parts of the organ.
That seems smart. Yeah.
We go through this narrow walkway here. This actually, so we're now in the tower space. When we walked through that doorway, we went from basically one room into another. We're in another structure. This is the tower of the church, and this wall, this cinder block wall here, was all opened previously. So we filled this in. Where I'm standing now, all the way back to the back of the tower, was all pipework previously, and these windows were boarded up, closed off. So this is the first time we've had natural light in here in almost 100 years. This is the fan for the destratification system. And this runs more or less continuously, and it helps circulate the air. This is sound attenuation equipment up here that was custom designed and keeps everything really quiet out in the room. And then here's the blower for the organ. And this takes us into the bellows chamber.
Down static
into a wedge.
Interesting.
See inside. Watch your head in yourself. So we're coming into this is the same wall again that we filled in. So you're coming back into the nave now. We're in the swell. I left the shutters closed, which I should not have done.
Because it is a mechanical swell, right?
Right.
So they don't open automatically when you turn it off.
Correct.
And so now we're in the grate.
Yeah, this is the great. We've got the German trumpet, and behind that the French trumpet, which also goes up into the upper grate part of the French trumpet.
Oh, so some of it's up there. Okay.
Yeah. So that has the part of that trumpet and the viol de gambe and harmonic flute, the spire flute are up there.
So you can lower this walkboard so you can get through.
If you lift that and then lift this up, you can lower it.
It's handy, so then you can get through to tune the grate, and then when you need to get up to these pipes.
Yeah, there's a ladder there that hooks on here to get back up.
So the swell is interesting in that when you pull from the pedal, actually the first two shades open first, and then the rest of the shades open with them. And then I assume when you're closing, you get the same sort of thing. And that these shades are 100%, and then these are still open a little bit. And then you can push them the rest of the way. The bevels on the swell shades are not completely flat. There's actually two steps, there's two bevels when they close, and they make a complete seal. There's not any way like them go in. You get a very solid seal on your swell shades there. Just a thin layer of felt, but
Yeah, I found this to be the most effective swell in terms of the shades that I've ever played on. One of the things they show me for tuning the lower and middle range of the oboe is that it has, rather than tuning it on the wire, you tune it on these slots.
Yes, last week I had a family that came here specifically for the organ. The mother was an organist. They were just taking their picture in front of the organ. And I think that's so adorable because our big attraction here is the Washington pew. So most people want their picture taken where the president sat, but these people were here just for the organ. Oh, I had another tour of some college students. A girl came up to me and said, like, my father is a huge fan of pipe organs. If he was here right now, he would be all over this organ. She took pictures to send to him. So, yeah, and in working here, I've met so many people who are organists, and I think it's so cool how it's kind of like drawing people in.
So Parker, thank you very much for showing us this wonderful Fisk organ dedicated just this year in this historic building. And if you want to come hear it, you have regular organ demonstrations on Wednesdays, correct?
We do, and we also have monthly recitals here on first Fridays in the evening, 7 p.m., and Wednesday, 12:30 midday demonstrations. So check us out on our webpage and
make your way to Old City, Philadelphia to hear this wonderful instrument in this historic church. And remember, if you want to hear streaming classical music 24 hours a day, you can visit any of our 3 stations, organlive.com, Positively Baroque, and The Organ Experience. If you want to get notifications when new videos are added, hit the subscribe button. And if you like this one, hit the thumbs up button. We always appreciate that. I'm Brent Johnson, and I'll see you next time.